Hello friends, Frogopolis here, and today I'd like to talk about Incantation. Incantation had an effect on me that not many movies do. The presentation and immersion of it politely demands your attention and doesn't let go of you until the very end. In a perfect mix of hopeless dread, but also heart and humanity. Incantation begins with Ronan asking you a very simple but important question. Do you believe in blessings? We are then given a couple of experiments to do and told that our intentions shape the world. We are then blindsided by horrific imagery of a young girl suffering before Ronan explains that she has been cursed for 6 years now. Worst yet, she is completely alone in this curse, as even trying to talk to someone about it leads them to a horrible fate. I love this opening. It instantly gets the audience involved and invested in her story. Suan Tai, who plays Ronan, does a fantastic job conveying the fear, paranoia, and desperation that would come with having this curse put upon you. Most importantly, we are asked to memorize a symbol and recite a mantra with her. A big part of this movie is Ronan feeling she's well enough to finally see her daughter that she had to give up to foster care shortly after she gave birth to her. When I mentioned heart and humanity at the beginning of the video, that's Dodo. And if you were to assign themes to certain characters, I would say that the humanity of this film is who we meet next, Ming. The relationship Dodo has with Ming and eventually Ronan just comes off as so natural and is one of the things that really elevated this movie for me. And also makes the events of this film, especially its climax, that much more heartbreaking, but we'll get there. There's this brief window of time where Ronan is just being a good mother to Dodo, but then one simple, innocuous activity causes everything to crash down. She asks Dodo to write her full name. Ronan, despite her efforts, never escaped the curse, but to get a better understanding of what's happening, we need to go back to the past. 6 years ago, Ronan, her boyfriend Dom, and Dom's cousin Yuan ran a YouTube channel called Strange Murmurs where they were Ghostbusters. And Dom just happened to have an uncle that lives in a remote village that has a cursed location in it. This cursed location has a very straightforward name, the tunnel you must not enter. But that's never stopped YouTubers from doing something stupid. The village is a great example of show don't tell, as we only learn enough that the villagers are willing to tell our 3 visitors. Though one important thing they tell them right away is that Ronan shouldn't be there because she's not part of the family. This changes though when a village elder asks to read her palm and then enthusiastically lets her in. Aside from the villagers doing a strange gesture, you can also see mirrors around the village, and the most obvious thing is when they look inside a room and see a little girl having runes painted onto her. Also a lot of grubs, which you're going to be seeing a lot of in this movie. Skipping ahead a bit and getting to where the names become very important, as part of the ritual for being there, they must give Mother Buddha their names. Most importantly, the little girl we saw earlier, who acts as a conduit for Mother Buddha, touches Ronan's stomach and says a prayer. At this time, Ronan had no idea she was pregnant, even though she showed a few signs of early pregnancy. There's a terrifying realization in knowing that the village elder let Ronan in because she can eventually use her unborn child as a new sacrifice to Mother Buddha. Whether Ronan likes it or not, both her and Dodo are part of her, and unfortunately things are only going to get worse. Knowing a bit more about the ritual and the fact that she was pregnant with Dodo at the time, it really makes you recontextualize what we looked at earlier. And you really have to think, did Ronan know everything was going to start again when Dodo wrote her full name? Was she trying to share the curse with her in a way to lighten the burden on herself? Or more innocently, was she just having Dodo write out her name as a little activity? Even though she's had this curse for so long, she doesn't fully know how it works as much as she's tried to. She may have not had the oversight to think, hey, maybe having Dodo write out her full name later might also give part of herself to Mother Buddha. What makes Ronan so interesting to me is that you never really know when she's doing something out of malice or desperation or this simple ignorance. Well, sometimes you know when she's doing things in malice, but don't worry, we'll get to that. Back in the present, Mother Buddha immediately lets herself be known to Dodo. The first sign Ronan gets of Mother Buddha's presence is breaking glass in the presence of insects. Ronan is understandably in denial of what's happening, as to her, she's gotten over this. She just wants to move past it. But the acceptance and panic slowly seeps in. There's this wonderfully eerie scene where Ronan starts to hear Dodo screaming at a baddie, and that the baddie is in the ceiling and won't go away. So Ronan has to take this baddie by the hand and lead it out of the apartment. This, along with other strange happenings, obviously freaks Dodo out, and Ronan uses stuffed animals to reenact what the psychiatrist told her when she started seeing baddies, and what she can do if she ever starts to feel scared. When putting her to bed, Dodo asked if she was thrown away because Mommy was scared of monsters, and Ronan replies that she's not scared anymore. This movie just absolutely destroys me emotionally. We're brought back in time once again to when they're still in the village. Yuan is not taking any of this very seriously, but Dom is concerned about Ronan as she seems very pensive. And since Ronan and Dom were seeing each other, it wouldn't be that far off for them to conclude that she might actually be pregnant. That night, they leave their cabin to spy on the villagers and see them praying. The little girl catches them snooping and asks Ronan if she wants to see something, and takes her to a shrine. What's notable is that this shrine is inside a building and locked up, and that two men are not allowed to enter. This is another scene of so many great little details, like all those Buddha statues facing the wrong way, and the beautiful painting on the ceiling. We also see this strange liquid dripping down. Here we learn another terrifying thing about Mother Buddha, as she sometimes wants physical sacrifices too. In this case, one of the little girl's ears, as she believes she is chosen by the gods to spread blessing. To a lesser extent, she shows Ronan an example of this by using her hair to feed a box of frogs. No relation. Meanwhile, Dom and Yuan are doing themselves no favors by being incredibly disrespectful. All three of them are caught by the villagers and chastised for their actions. They are then locked in their cabin. Back in the present, when Ronan is back at her parents' old place to sell it, Dodo walks off being led away by Mother Buddha, who leads her to where she can find a knife. And she uses this knife to break a lock that was being used to seal off the now cursed video of when they're in the village. And unfortunately, Dodo watches some of it. Ronan does find her and take it away, but it's already too late. Watching Dodo suffer the full force of the curse is genuinely hard to watch, and reinforces just how unrelenting and ruthless this curse is. And now that the curse is in full force, nobody who knows of them is safe either. And we see this firsthand when one of the workers from the foster home wrote down Dodo's name as a prayer to get better when she had to go to the hospital. Despite all of Ronan's efforts, and with Dodo's condition getting worse, she loses custody of her. This is devastating for Ronan, and she doesn't want to let her go. So she doesn't, and runs away with her. Ming finds Dodo hiding out in Ronan's car, and wants to get her to safety, but he starts to notice that Dodo has become attached to Ronan. When he sees this and the efforts that Ronan is going to for Dodo, he, against his better judgment, decides to help them. While this decision may seem short-sighted or irrational, you have to remember that Dodo was like a daughter to Ming, and for the past 6 years, he was basically her father. He would do anything for her. Once again, we are brought back to the past, and we finally get to see the inciting incident that caused all of this to happen. The trio break out of their cabin and head to the Forbidden Tunnel. They have to hide when they see the villagers marching ceremoniously up to it. Once the coast is clear, they see that the little girl from earlier is wrapped up and being offered as a sacrifice to Mother Buddha. And while they're not sure exactly what will happen to her, they are understandably concerned. Yuan also feels that they've gotten too close to just give up. So to satiate his own curiosity and to see if there's anyone actually in there, he breaks open the seal and walks in. Dom enters soon after him, and Ronan stays with the little girl. We don't see what they see just yet, but it was bad enough that Yuan runs out screaming, and moments later, Dom's body is carried out. We also see Ronan being affected by the curse as she starts bleeding. The villagers are understandably furious that the tunnel has been opened. The little girl tries to stop her from taking the camera with her, but she won't have it. Scared and confused, Ronan starts walking through the village looking for Yuan, and Yuan starts running around yelling, "Don't ask." When she confronts Yuan, he's seemingly possessed and attacks her. She fights him off, and we can see that his teeth are falling out. She gets away and sees a bunch of the villagers praying around Dom's burning body. And then Yuan comes crashing from above and dies. Now she's in a full-on panic and is running to the car. She sees that a bunch of the villagers now have runes all over their bodies. She gets in the car and speeds off. Going back to what's happening in the present, Ronan goes to go take them to the village in hopes that she can get help, but as they're going up the road to it, they find they're going in circles. I feel this is happening because Ming is not meant to be there. Through what can only be called divine intervention, Ming is being stopped from entering the village. We start hearing loud banging on the car from an unseen force, and in a clever bit of storytelling, the radio comes on its own, and we learn about yet another victim of the curse as we hear a news story about a woman being found dead in a mental health facility. This was Ronan's psychiatrist, as she had watched the video to prove to Ronan that there was nothing to be afraid of. Needless to say, they get the hell out of there. They head to a temple and hope that they can do a ritual to rid Dodo of this curse. And unfortunately, this is a fruitless endeavor, as part of the ritual would involve Dodo not eating for 7 days. Ronan does try this, even applying a drip feeder to her at one point, but she can't do that to her, so she ends up feeding her again. Also, while they are at the temple, Ronan notices that the camera is missing, and Ming has taken it to find out what's in this video that seems so important. He wants to help Dodo and know what it feels like to be a father. Here we learn more about the religions that Mother Buddha borrows off of. And most importantly, we learn that Ming is working to repair the footage from inside the tunnel. And we learn that the writing on the little girl from earlier is actually an ancient Brahmin text, and Ming finds somebody who can translate it and travels to that temple. Here he learns the curse's true nature, and inevitably succumbs to it himself. Mother Buddha is an internet whiz because, upon Ming's death, she then starts spamming Ronan's phone with a now repaired tunnel video. Ronan is obviously hesitant to watch the video at first, and is far more concerned about Dodo at this moment, and unfortunately her condition is getting worse. Ronan, now in even more of a panic, heads back to the temple for help, but the two people that were helping her are already doomed because she fed Dodo. The old man is already dead and the woman is possessed. We're then treated to a fantastic jump scare when she attacks Ronan. Dodo is levitated into the air before being abruptly dropped down. Don't worry though, she is alive. Ronan, after this, realizes that there's not really much she can do to help Dodo, and that her being around Dodo is a detriment. We're with Ronan again, now on her own, and we see the video of the monk that Ming took, and she once again reminds us to help her spread this message to help Dodo. That night at the hospital, something very interesting happened. Dodo was led away by Mother Buddha and led her to the girl from 6 years ago. Dodo finds her just laying outside the walls of a hospital, and it's never really explained how she got there. Though the consensus from me and some other people I've seen talk about the movie is that now that Dodo is going to be Mother Buddha's sacrifice, Mother Buddha does not need the girl anymore. She's now a teenager, and we're only left to speculate what's happened to her in these 6 years. Ronan sneaks into the girl's room and memorizes the runes that are around her body. Also, in her most malicious act yet, she cuts off her ear. As horrifying as this is part of Ronan's final plan to save Dodo, and the next step of her plan is going to be to show us the tunnel video. We see Yuan and Dom shortly after they enter the tunnel, and Yuan just instantly starts breaking every taboo. See this protective barrier? Let's cut it down. See these little shrines of offerings around them? Let's play with the offerings. Oh look, a cool looking statue. I know, let's lift the veil. Learning a bit more about how Buddhists protect themselves from evil spirits makes this scene even funnier and more terrifying, because they literally find these two large mirrors, the tunnel is full of them, and they just decide to move them. When they uncover the Mother Buddha statue, it is just very creepy and also really gorgeous. The craftsmanship that went into this looks fantastic. Yuan lifts the veil, and everything goes to shit. Yuan starts freaking out, Dom gets seemingly possessed, there's mirrors breaking everywhere, shit starts to move around, there's hands jutting out of the wall, creepy ass noises are just getting louder and louder. Yuan is the only person to get out of the tunnel, but we know he won't last long. And Dom is attacked by the tunnel and killed. And remember, whoever sees this footage is pretty doomed, so we as an audience are in serious trouble. But don't worry, it's gonna get worse for us. Ronan also returns all of Dodo's things to the foster care home. She laments that she has failed as a mother, and her trying to bring Dodo back into her life was done in a selfish manner. She had never truly gotten better, and had made people's lives worse because of it. I don't think Ronan is a bad person. I think Ronan is scared and desperate. And while you can certainly see some of her actions as antagonistic, you have to think, what would you do in this situation? By now, it's no secret that the mantra and rituals around Mother Buddha are not meant to prevent this curse, but spread it. And in a last-ditch effort to save Dodo, she's going to spread it as much as possible. From the very beginning, she had our attention and empathy and had us play along. Remember, everything we've been seeing has been leading up to where Ronan pleads for us for help. And even if we caught on that this is a curse and that she's not being 100% honest with us, it's kinda too late. Ronan goes back home and draws the runes all over her body. She records one last message for Dodo where she asks her to forget her own name and to forget about her. She apologizes for what she put her through, and she really just wants her to have the best life possible. Then she heads back to the tunnel. Once inside, the curse only intensifies and her skin starts to get rashes. She makes her way to the altar. She once again asks us to recite the incantation with her, even if it's only in her head. In a scene that I think is brilliant, she has each symbol pop up on the screen, and it sears into your brain along with the chanting. In one final twist, we find out that Ronan has always known the true nature of the curse, as she had visited the temple Ming did years earlier. On top of that, she offers the girl's ear, not her own, and she puts on a blindfold before lifting the veil and showing us what's behind it. She does want to save Dodo, but in the process, save herself too. She asks us one last question: what is your name? She then lifts the veil, and we see something that is both incredible and horrifying, as it is a seemingly endless void of flesh and holes. Despite her efforts for self-preservation, she quickly succumbs to the curse and dies. But her efforts are not in vain. We see in a small clip at the end that Dodo was alive and happy. With our help, willing or not, the curse is now weakened and Dodo can have a long, fulfilling life. We just had to sacrifice a little bit of ours. While movies about people being cursed aren't anything new, it's how Incantation portrays it and its characters that really help you get invested. How it slowly takes over her life and starts taking away the people she loves, eventually leading her to do desperate things. While Ronan can certainly be seen as antagonistic, you can still empathize with her. She didn't choose any of this, she was just at the wrong place at the wrong time and her life was ruined. And when she tried to put it back together, things just got worse. You feel that no matter what she did, she would have been screwed. Not to mention just how down-to-earth and natural everyone else acted. I really felt bad for Ming. I wanted to see Dodo survive. I was very much invested in their well-being. I'm also a huge geek for fictional cults. You just give me some lore, some crazy symbols, and you've got me hooked. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe or leave a little message. But if anything, I'm just happy you stopped by. Have a great day. Bye.